how did you use your law training in your job with the Chickasaw Times?
For the Chickasaw Times, I covered a lot of the legal writing areas. I wrote articles over any of the legal aspects. I wrote some articles on the Indian Child Welfare Act, and also with Chickasaw Times, I mainly focused on writing about our programs that Chickasaw Nation offers and how the citizens can really access those programs. I noticed a lot of the Chickasaw Times articles were kind of shell articles, nothing you couldn't get from just picking up the programs, the service guide, and reading a little shell. So I really wanted to get an in-depth focus on those and show people how they could really access those programs. And I think my legal training just kind of helped in that I wanted a more in-depth view in those articles than just a shell copy.
Is there anything that you think you can change about this judicial system that might improve?
I think the judicial system actually runs and operates great under the Supreme Court that's in there now, and the district court judges. I think they do a great job. I think the things I can add is just a new insight and maybe a new opinion that hasn't been seen in the court system before.
When a citizen that is not familiar with the judicial terminology wants to present a court case before the Supreme Court, do you think they have to use exact legal words, or can they just write out their concerns?
Well, certainly, I think with pro se citizens bringing a case before the Supreme Court, there should be a little more leniency given on the legal terminology you expect them to use. I think for effective representation of their case, it's good that they know the laws and have access to the laws to where they can research the laws and use them to their benefit and understand them in a plain way. But I wouldn't expect a pro se citizen necessarily to present their case on the same equal level as a trained professional, but I wouldn't hold that against them in any way. I think I'd expect that, and I think I just look at the legal issue they're presenting and apply it to the law and give the best just decision I could. I know we gotta have a couple more questions than that.
You made statement that you felt like you were shut out or overlooked for jobs when you applied through our legal division, and the jobs were given to non-Chickasaws. Were you ever given any explanation or told why?
No, I never was given any explanation. I know I interviewed for at least over 6 positions, several in the Justice Department, several in Commerce, and each time I just seemed to get beat out, and non-citizen was put into that place, which I believe tribal citizens should certainly take those positions first, and if there was another qualified tribal citizen applying for that job, I certainly, if they were more qualified than me, would think they should be put in that position, but that just certainly wasn't the case in most of those instances. I can only think of one instance where I was actually beat out by a tribal citizen.
Are there Chickasaws that make the choices, or is it non-Chickasaw, I guess,
that just depends on who runs the department. Usually the people I were interviewing with the Justice Department, there was a Chickasaw citizen, Deanna Hartley. I know she's Chickasaw citizen. She was in several of those interviews. And then outside of that, along with her in those interviews, there were several non-citizens that were also in the Justice Department. She wasn't the sole decision maker, so I don't want to put any blame towards her by any means. I think she does a good job.
I met another attorney, same thing, but was chosen over, he was a Chickasaw citizen, but so they chose a non-Indian over him as well. You're the second one I've heard.
And I think a lot of it, I was a fresh turning out of law school, so I did have some experience that may have been lacking at that point over some of the other some of the other people competing against me, but I also think it's our job as a tribe to train our own citizens and let them work in those positions and give them that training that they deserve to get into those positions, even if they may be a little less qualified than a non-Indian. We want our own people in there, and we want our own people working
Supreme Court. I know that our tribal governance comes from our Constitution, and under that, we govern laws that are made. Do you think, I guess a two-part question, do you think that as a whole, Chickasaw citizens understand or know the Constitution that we have? And if not, how could that be addressed? Is that something that the judicial department is or should be involved in addressing that issue?
Well, I guess, I think our citizens as a whole, may not be aware of all the ins and outs of the Constitution and all the codes that we have. I know we do produce them, and they are open to the public, very accessible to the public, and if they were looking for them, I know that they could find them. I think the Supreme Court as a whole may not have the time to promote that, nor may it be their place to promote certain aspects of those things, since they are the decision makers of the laws. But I think getting it out to the people in any way, shape, or form, or giving them access to advocates that would help them work through the legal process may be an adequate way to deal with that means.
Do you think we should codify our rulings so that we can see where there are precedents in the judicial area, so that if anyone brought a case before them, they could cite something that had been ruled on in a similar case?
I think codifying the case law may hinder some of the laws that are there. The laws are in place, and the case law only interprets the laws. So putting those in an actual codification system when they're up for interpretation may be harder. Maybe putting an easier form to access them or research the points you're looking for may be a more efficient way to do that than actually codifying the opinions as a whole.
Another question. In American law, is there a way of looking up precedent cases?
Yeah, there's certainly ways of researching precedents through case law books. They aren't necessarily codified as much as they are set up in an easier research format. Systems like Westlaw, LexisNexis, even using just a general law library, they allow you to go in and find the topics or the issues that you're dealing with in a lot easier format, just because they have the resources actually to put those together.
One more question.
Many as you want.
If we could develop something along that line, would it be the legislators that would have to address that issue, or would that be something that the Supreme Court should address?
Well, the Supreme Court certainly doesn't have the appropriation powers that the legislature has, and there'd have to be money appropriated to actually take on that task. And once that money was appropriated, there'd be need to be a sufficient amount of people to somehow go through and back codify all that. There's been a lot of rulings over the many years, so it's something that should be done, but it's something also that would take a lot of time and basically all three branches working together really to get that task completed, not just one branch by itself.
Your current job that you're working on now, you're gaining some experience. How could you bring that experience and apply it to the tribe?
Currently, I work for the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes as the general counsel for their legislature, helping draft the laws, make sure the laws are in conformity with their constitution. And I think that will be directly in play with helping interpret laws as a Supreme Court justice. And thank you all.